They say life flips on you after a certain year. The fire in your gut just simmers down to embers, faint flickers of what used to be. You settle into the rhythm of quiet, thinking the real thrills are rear view mirror stuff. That's what I told myself anyway. I'm Eleanor Vance, 65 years on this planet, 5 years a widow, rattling around this old brownstone in Brooklyn Heights that feels as hollow as I've been feeling. There's a kind of peace in the quiet, sure, but it's the kind that wraps around you like a lead blanket, pulling you down into the stillness. Until Leo walked in and blew it all apart. He was 25, buzzing with this raw energy, reminded me of some ghost version of myself I'd buried a long time ago. Falling for him? Last thing on my mind. Didn't even think I had it in me to feel anything like what happened. This isn't some story about young lust or some Hallmark card love thing. It's about the jolt, the shock of desire when you think you're past it, done with all that. Don't ask me to explain why or if it was right, or any of that. All I know is Leo made me feel alive again, in ways I'd forgotten were even possible. This brownstone, perched on the edge of Brooklyn Heights overlooking the harbor, has seen better days. It's a house built on echoes, mostly of Richard, my husband who checked out 5 years back, and the life we carved out here. Walls whisper with the past, a past I clung to because it was all I had left for so long. Since Richard died, my life's been a tight loop of routine. Wake up early, brew coffee, stare out at the harbor, watching the ferries churn back and forth, like waiting for some signal that never comes. Tried to keep busy, you know? Volunteered at the local library, even took up knitting for God's sake. Nothing stuck, nothing filled the hole. My journalism days were long gone by the time Richard passed, and now I felt like an antique, dusty, forgotten. The woman who chased stories across continents, interviewed presidents and dictators, reduced to someone who barely crossed the street. Even my own body felt like a betrayal, the aches in my joints a daily reminder of how far I'd tumbled from my prime. I saw people, now and then. Sarah, my neighbor, closest thing to a friend I had, would drop by for tea on Sundays. But even those visits felt thin, surface level. She had her own life, kids, grandkids, the whole package. I was on the outside, looking in. Felt like a ghost in my own life, drifting through days without a compass. The house, once buzzing with dinner parties and laughter, started showing its age, mirroring how I felt. Roof leaked, foundation groaned, window frames rotting out. A perfect metaphor for me, weathered, crumbling, too damn tired to lift a finger. Then the cracks in the old brownstone's walls got too big to ignore. House needed fixing. And maybe, just maybe, so did I, though I was clueless about that part at the time. I remember the day Leo showed up like it was yesterday, burned into my memory. Warm day, late spring, called some local contractor to get an estimate on the damage. When the pickup truck rumbled up to the curb, I pictured some grizzled old guy with a tool belt. Instead, out climbed Leo, young, ripped, radiating energy, faded t-shirt, jeans hugging his legs, hair a mess from the wind, and this easy smile, like the world hadn't thrown its punches yet. I felt this instant jolt of something, discomfort maybe, just because I wasn't used to being around that much life, not because of anything he did, just me. Mrs. Vance, he said, voice confident, a little rough around the edges, surprised me, intrigued me too, if I'm being honest. I'm Leo. I'll be working on the house for the next few weeks. I shook his hand, my fingers brushing against calluses on his palm. He felt solid, grounded, made me acutely aware of how fragile I'd become, like I might shatter if he squeezed too tight. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything beyond the repairs, the leaky roof, the cracked plaster. But something shifted in the air, something subtle, like a change in barometric pressure. Days bled into each other, Leo working his tail off, and I found myself hanging around. Stupid, I know. At first, it was just boredom, curiosity, nothing else to do in this echoing tomb of a house. But soon I realized it wasn't just that. I was drawn to him, to the raw vitality he threw off like sparks from a grinder. His laughter bounced off the quiet walls, his music, some guitar riffs he'd noodled during breaks, drifted through the hallways like a forgotten song. We talked, a lot. During his lunch breaks, coffee breaks, any excuse to stop working. He asked about my life, my years as a journalist, the places I'd been, the stories I'd chased. And I found myself opening up, pouring out pieces of myself I hadn't shared with anyone since Richard. He listened. Really listened, eyes wide, fascinated. First time in ages I felt truly seen, like someone actually gave a damn about Eleanor Vance, not just the widow rattling around the brownstone. Leo told me about his own life, working construction to bankroll music school, his dream of becoming a professional guitarist playing sold out stadiums. This fire in him, this hunger, it was like looking in a mirror from another lifetime. A lifetime I'd somehow misplaced. And as I listened to him talk about his dreams, something stirred in me. Woke up. Should have seen the danger signs then, should have walked away. But I told myself it was harmless. Ridiculous, even. I was old enough to be his grandmother, for Christ's sake. What could possibly happen? Days morphed into weeks. Leo's presence in the house became the thing I looked forward to, the bright spot in the endless gray. More than I wanted to admit, even to myself. Started noticing stupid things. The way his muscles moved under his t-shirt when he hoisted lumber. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. The way he seemed to linger, just a beat too long when we talked, when he handed me a tool. The first real jolt of desire hit me like a runaway train. One afternoon, scorching hot, I brought him a glass of iced tea. Watched him down it in one long gulp, sweat beading on his forehead, dripping down his neck. He handed the glass back, fingers brushing mine. Tiny, innocent touch. Sent a shockwave right through me. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly. All I could think about was that touch. Him. My mind went places it hadn't dared to venture in years. Imagined what it would feel like to be touched again, held, wanted. Then the guilt slammed in, a cold wave. How could I be thinking these things? About someone so young? Absurd. Shameful. But the thoughts wouldn't back down. Every time I saw him, they got louder, bolder. Started catching myself in the mirror before he arrived, smoothing my hair, adjusting my collar. Foolish. Pathetic. Couldn't stop myself. One afternoon, walking around the brownstone small garden, I tripped on a loose brick, stumbled. Into him. His hands shot out, caught me, steadying me before I went down. We stood there too close, his hands gripping my arms, my breath hitched in my throat. Could feel the heat radiating off him. "Got you," he murmured, voice low, right by my ear. Looked up at him. Something flickered between us. Brief, maybe just my imagination, but recognition. Pulled away fast, mumbled thanks. Damage was done. Something shifted, no going back. The first kiss. Late one evening. Leo stayed after work, helping me lug some boxes of old photos down from the attic. Attic air thick with dust, light dim, both of us tired. We sat on an old trunk, catching our breath. Talked for a while, easy conversation, like always. Then the air changed. Silence stretched out, humming with unspoken words. Could feel him watching me, his gaze heavy on my face. Looked up, eyes locked. Don't know who moved first. All I remember is his lips on mine. Gentle, hesitant, but intent. Should have pulled away. Slapped him maybe. Stopped it right there. Didn't. Kissed him back. Let myself fall into it. Get lost in the moment. When we finally broke apart, saw the confusion, the uncertainty in his eyes. "Eleanor," he started, voice rough. "Leo," I whispered, hand on his chest, feeling his heart hammer under my palm. "Just don't." Didn't talk about it after that. But the kiss hung in the air between us, thick and heavy, a secret we both carried. I was a mess of exhilaration and shame. Guilt gnawed at me, but the desire was a roaring current, pulling me under. Felt alive again, in a way that scared me as much as it thrilled me. Over the next weeks, the stolen moments became more frequent, bolder. Never spoke about what was happening, the elephant in the room growing bigger every day. But the physical tension was a live wire between us. When we were alone, he'd kiss me, touch me, his hands growing bolder, more sure with each time. We found hidden corners of the brownstone, shadows in the garden, any place to steal a few minutes. His hands on my body, a tenderness I hadn't felt in decades, made me forget everything else. But it wasn't just physical. Leo had cracked something open inside me, a yearning for connection, for passion, for life. He made me feel like a woman again, not just a relic, a widow stuck in rewind. Started looking forward to his touch, the way he made me feel. Desired. Yet, with every stolen kiss, every hidden touch, the guilt tightened its grip. Richard. Flashed in my mind constantly. The life we built here, the vows, the memories. What would he think? But I couldn't stop. Didn't want to. The affair with Leo was a wildfire, exhilarating, terrifying. But it came with a price tag. The guilt over Richard was a constant ache, a dull throb in my chest. Then there was the fear of being found out. Knowing what I was doing was reckless, dangerous, not just for me, but for Leo too. Sarah, my neighbor, started noticing changes. Mentioned it one afternoon over tea, how lively I seemed lately. Said there was a new spring in my step, a different energy about me. Curious, of course. Could see the questions forming behind her eyes. Brushed it off, told her it was just the house renovations, enjoying seeing the old place come back to life. Saw the doubt flicker in her gaze. She didn't know anything for sure, but she suspected. That suspicion turned into paranoia. Started being extra careful around Leo, like we were in some cheap spy movie, making sure we were never seen together outside the house, timing his departures, jumping at every unexpected knock on the door. But it wasn't just Sarah. The guilt was eating me alive in ways I hadn't anticipated. Leo, on the other hand, seemed to be falling harder, deeper. He'd linger longer after work, wanting to talk, to touch, to just be with me. He was young, all in, full throttle passion. And I could feel him starting to expect more, something I wasn't sure I could give. One evening, after a particularly intense moment, tangled together in the shadows of the living room, he asked me, point blank, if I could ever see a future with him. Future. Word hung in the air like a dropped chandelier. Future? Absurd. I was 65, he was 25. What future could there possibly be? But the look in his eyes, raw, pleading, told me he was serious. He wanted more. Something real. Something I just couldn't. After Leo's question, everything shifted. Tension coiled between us, thick and suffocating. Could feel the weight of his expectations pressing down, crushing me, scared me. This hadn't been the deal. Never meant for the affair to become this. More than stolen moments, fleeting passion, a way to feel something, anything again. But Leo wanted more. And I was tapped out, empty. Tried to create distance. Started avoiding him, making excuses when he came around, pretending to be busy, headachy, anything to keep him at arm's length. Harder than I thought. Every time I saw him, the pull was still there, a magnetic force. Couldn't help but be drawn in. Constant push and pull, wanting him, knowing I couldn't have him, needing him, knowing it could never last. Double life. Split in two. The woman I'd been for so long, solid, predictable, and this new woman, raw, reckless, alive in ways I thought were long gone. One day, disaster. Sarah showed up, unannounced, while Leo was still at the house, finishing up some trim work in the study. Panic flared. Had to scramble, shove Leo out the back door, through the garden, praying Sarah hadn't seen him. Close call. Too close. Realized how precarious, how stupidly dangerous this whole thing had become. Breaking point. Weeks of tension, silence, strained smiles. Leo was frustrated, raw. One evening, after another flimsy excuse from me, he confronted me, cornered me, wanted to know what the hell we were doing, what I wanted from him. He was falling in love with me, he said, voice cracking. Needed to know if I felt it too. Love. Word exploded in the quiet room. Love? How could I love him? Cared for him, yes. Felt this insane pull, this desire, but love? Impossible. Couldn't give him that. Realization crushed me, flattened me. Tried to explain, stumbled over words, tried to make him understand. Too old, too broken, wrong, for him, but he wouldn't listen. Didn't care about my age, didn't care about any of it. Just wanted me, but I knew better, couldn't last. Guilt, shame, fear, too much. So, with a heart that felt like it was being ripped in two, I told him, over. Had to end it. No future for us. Sooner we accepted it, the less damage, the better. For both of us. Lied through my teeth. Leo was shattered. Begged me to reconsider. Tears in his eyes. But I stood firm. Frozen. Over. Had to be. After Leo walked out, the brownstone swallowed me whole. Silence deafening. Emptier than ever. Let go of the one thing that had made me feel anything. Left with nothing but echoes, dust, and the weight of what I'd done. Months crawled by. Reflection, life, choices, Leo, Richard. Life we'd built, love we'd shared, different kind of love. Deeper, quieter, steadier, but love all the same. One day, a letter from Leo. Thanked me for everything. For waking him up, rediscovering his music, his passion, showing him a kind of connection he hadn't known existed. Moving away, he said, Nashville, chasing his dream, hoped I could find peace. His words stirred something, realized it was time, let go of the past, sold the brownstone, too big, too many ghosts, moved to a smaller place, quiet street in the village. Started teaching piano again, a few students, kids mostly. Slowly, rebuilding, not as the woman who had an affair, but as someone who'd learned to live again, someone who'd felt the jolt, the shock, the unexpected fire, and survived.